A large whale weighs up to 200 tons, enough to kill a person without meaning to. When one gets wrapped in fishing rope, a human sometimes swims right up to that wall of muscle with a blade, starts cutting, and the animal holds still and lets them. It looks exactly like the whale is asking to be saved. According to the people who do this for a living, it almost never is. You know the clip. A dolphin drags a fishing hook toward a diver. A whale hangs quiet in the water while a stranger cuts it loose, then slaps its tail once, like a thank you. And something in your chest goes soft because it feels like proof that the animal knew, that it looked at a human and thought, this one can help me. Here is the plain answer to whether wild animals really ask us for help. Some do, in a real and repeatable way, but almost none of them are the ones in the rescue videos. The strongest evidence isn't a dramatic clip at all. It's smaller, older, and far stranger than a whale. Start with that whale, because the whale is where the feeling is strongest and the truth is hardest. The rescuers who cut these animals free work under one rule that sounds almost cruel. They must assume the whale has no idea they are helping, not that it might not know, that it does not. They plan every single move around an animal that could read the knife as an attack. And they're not being cold, they're being careful, because an entangled whale is a distressed animal, and a distressed animal is unpredictable. It can roll, dive, or throw its tail without any warning at all. 200 tons moving in fear does not care about your good intentions. That is why only trained, authorized responders are allowed to try, and why the rest of us are told to stay back. This is not a thing for you to do. If you ever see it, you are a witness, not a rescuer. So why does the whale hold still at all if it doesn't understand? Because it often can't do much else. Think about what tangled in rope actually means. Pain, exhaustion, movement pinned down to almost nothing. When an animal is hurt that badly, its options for escape shrink to nearly zero. The stillness isn't trust. The stillness is a body that has run out of room. You have felt a smaller version of this. The moment when something goes wrong and you go quiet, not because you've chosen calm, but because struggling stopped working. The whale isn't consenting to the rescue, it's cornered, and from the outside, cornered and grateful look nearly identical. That is the whole trick of the video. It shows you stillness and lets you fill in the reason. There's one more thing that makes the rescue look like a request when it isn't. Many of these animals have met humans before, at fishing spots, near boats, around divers. That earlier contact, neutral or even good, quietly lowers the fear threshold. So the animal that lets you close isn't recognizing a savior. It's just less afraid of your shape than a truly wild one would be. Familiarity, not understanding. The calm you're reading as gratitude is often just a fear that got worn down over time. And notice something uncomfortable about the whole rescue. The rope, the hooks, the nets, that gear is ours. The tangle the whale is supposedly begging you to fix is a problem we made. A huge share of these heart-melting rescue moments start with human fishing line in the first place. The animal isn't reaching across the gap to us. It's caught in something we left in the water, and we're the hero of a story we also wrote the villain of. So if the viral clips aren't the proof, what is? For that you need an animal that comes to a human on purpose, when it is not hurt, not trapped, not cornered. An animal that chooses us as part of how it lives. And that animal exists. It isn't a whale or a dolphin or anything you'd put on a poster. It's a small bird. The greater honey guide is a free-living wild bird, never trained, never caged, that leads people to hidden bee nests. It calls, it flies from tree to tree, it points the way. Not once, as a fluke, as a job it does again and again. This is a wild animal that has folded humans into its own survival strategy, and it does it because the deal is good. The deal is this: the bird can find the nest but can't crack it open without being stung to death. We can smoke the bees out and break the nest apart, which the bird cannot safely do alone, so it guides us to the honey. We take the honey. It eats the wax combs left behind. Both sides walk away fuller. No coercion, no training, no leash. Just two species that worked out, over a very long time, that they're better together. And it runs both ways, which is the part that should stop you cold. This is real two-way communication between people and a wild bird. Honey hunters in Mozambique use a specific call, a loud trill followed by a short grunt, and the birds have learned what it means. When people made that traditional call, their chance of being guided by a bird jumped from 33% to 66%. Their chance of actually being shown a nest went from 16% to 54%, compared to random sounds. The bird isn't just tolerating us. It is listening for a human word and answering it. Sit with how rare that is. Not an animal we tamed and taught, but a wild one that learned our signal on its own terms and talks back. That is the thing the whale video only pretends to be. A genuine exchange between a wild animal and a person, where both sides know a signal and both sides gain. It's just quieter than a rescue, so it never trends. The truest example of an animal choosing humans looks, from a distance, like almost nothing at all. You can watch a slower version of it in the water too. In one town in Brazil, wild dolphins have fished alongside people for more than 140 years. The dolphins herd fish toward the fishers and give a signal for the moment to throw the nets. Nobody owns these dolphins. Nobody trained them. They are wild animals who decided a human is a useful thing to hunt beside and pass that decision down through generations, longer than most human families can trace their own names. Hold these two pictures next to each other because they do not mean the same thing at all. The bird and the dolphin are cooperation. Steady, mutual, learned, handed down. The tangled whale is rescue, and rescue is a different kind of event entirely. In cooperation, the animal recruits you. In rescue, the animal mostly just endures you. Every warm feeling you have about wild animals seeking our help lives in the narrow gap between those two words. Slide from one to the other and you've lied to yourself without noticing. Which raises a sharper question. When an animal is genuinely stuck, can it ever deliberately reach for a person, not tolerate one, recruit one, in the moment, to solve a problem it cannot solve alone? To even ask that honestly, you have to leave the ocean and go somewhere completely unglamorous. A pen, with a goat. Researchers gave goats a container of food sealed so it could not be opened, an impossible task, and then simply watched what the animals did. The goats turned toward the humans and gazed at them. They looked from the problem to the person and back, the way a dog does when it wants you to fix something, a stuck animal aiming its attention straight at a human face. But here is the detail that turns it from cute into evidence. The goats only did it when a human was actually looking. When the person's back was turned, the gazing dropped off. The goat wasn't just staring into space out of frustration. It was checking whether it had an audience and adjusting its behavior to match. That is not a reflex. That is a rough, early form of an animal directing a message at a mind it believes is watching. Sit inside that for a second, because you do the exact same thing. You don't ask the empty room for help. You wait until someone can see you, and then you let your struggle show. You aim it. You perform the difficulty for a face that might do something about it. The goat, blocked and clever, found the same move. When you can't solve it yourself, you look for a face that can, and you make sure that face is turned your way. Now hold the honest line, because this is exactly where it's easy to cheat. The goat is a domesticated animal, bred alongside us for thousands of years. Its willingness to look to a human is not proof that a wild whale or a wild dolphin understands rescue. It shows the capacity exists, that an animal can point its need at a person on purpose. It does not prove the animal in the viral clip is doing that. Those are two different claims, and the space between them is precisely where the internet lies to you the most. So put the whole thing back together, gently. Some wild animals genuinely recruit us. The honey guide and the fishing dolphins are the real thing. Cooperation you could almost set your watch by. Some animals, like the goat, can deliberately aim a request at a human when they are stuck, at least in a simple way. And then there are the rescue clips, the tangled whale, the hooked dolphin, where what we're almost certainly seeing is tolerance, or maybe a reach we can't yet read, but not proven understanding. Three different things, and the video blurs them into one warm lie. And you have to be careful which story you carry, because it changes what your body does. If you decide every hurt animal is quietly asking, you'll walk toward a distressed whale or a cornered wild thing believing you've been invited in. You have not. A frightened animal that cannot escape is the most dangerous animal there is, and it did not send for you. The kindest thing you can do for it is often to keep your distance and call someone trained. But sit with why you wanted the clip to be true, because that wanting is the honest part of all this. You want it to mean that we are not alone out here, that across the enormous gap between species, something can look at you in its worst moment and know that you, specifically, are the one who could help, that the wall of muscle in the dark saw a person and hoped. The quieter truth is better than that, if you let it be. The bird that calls you into the forest, the dolphin that waits for your net, the goat that catches your eye and holds it. They didn't reach for us out of drowning desperation. They reached because, over years and generations, they worked out that a human is worth reaching for. Not the animal that decides to trust you as it goes under. The animal, standing on its own 4 feet, that turned and chose you anyway.